Hello, today we're going to talk about some beauty news. It has been a minute, and I feel like a lot has happened these last few days that I kind of want to touch on today. Specifically, what the heck is going on with Morphe? There have been a lot of rumors around this one, so we're going to break it down. I'll tell you all the info there. We're also going to talk about some brands that are leaving Sephora, and hint, this actually falls in line with one of my first predictions that I made for my 2023 predictions. Those are probably the biggest topics today, though we have some other stuff we'll jump into. If you are new here, typically on Fridays, I do my Affordable Friday series, but I mentioned in a video earlier this week that I might switch it up a bit this year, and sometimes we'll save Fridays for something not drugstore makeup related. So that's the case today, but I do have another Affordable Friday video coming a week from today. Actually, I wanted it to come today, but I placed my e.l.f. order a week ago. It took them, they just shipped it out yesterday, so it's not here yet. So, makeup news it is. Let's jump into it. Okay, Morphe. Wow. So, if you want the long story, I'm going to leave a video linked down below that I posted earlier this year sharing the rise and fall of Morphe. And in that video, I just documented the full story from the brand. But without going fully into detail, I do want to touch on some parts to that story that are relevant to this to understand kind of what's happening with the brand right now. So we know that the brand started in 2008, but it was actually in 2019 when they were acquired with a majority stake from General Atlantic. At that time, they were valued at $2.2 billion. And the plan at that point was to create Forma Brands, which you might be familiar with. Forma Brands is now kind of that overarching umbrella that has Morphe, Morphe 2, plus a lot of other brands like Jaclyn Cosmetics, Playa, Bad Habit, Lipstick Queen. And the plan for Forma was that they were going to incubate their own brands, so kind of make their own. They were also going to accelerate brands, so they would purchase some and then help them grow and scale. And they were really hoping to be like the next big brand. Now, we learned last year that they were actually considering, they didn't officially, but they were considering filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Okay, future Kelly popping in to share an update that happened after I filmed this video. I do have a cold right now. You can probably hear it in my voice, but as of Thursday, Morphe has now filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Now, Chapter 11 doesn't necessarily mean that they're closing. They're just going to be restructuring. And apparently their assets will be acquired by investors. They're getting about $33 million in financing from that investment group. And the other interesting piece to this is that apparently now Ariana Grande's brand REM, or REM, is trying to kind of disassociate from Forma. And I talked about this in a previous video that they were started together, but for a while now, it hasn't shown REM Beauty on the Forma website. If you look at brands that they make, it hasn't said REM for a while now. And apparently the agreement that they had previously was more so a licensing agreement. Also, this is not confirmed at all, but we're seeing rumors that REM might be coming into Sephora as well now. More to come on this once we have a little bit more information, but I wanted to pop this into the video since it happened after I filmed it. Also in 2022, they were sued so many times. One time was for unpaid rent within their retail stores. One time they were sued in a class action lawsuit because they used non-eye safe pigments in their products, which is a conversation we've talked about before. Morphe is not the only brand that does this. They're not the only brand that's kind of gotten in trouble for this, but a lot of makeup brands will sell eyeshadow palettes that include pigments that are not deemed safe for the immediate eye area in the US. So these are the type of pigments that traditionally are extremely pigmented. So if you want that really punchy, vibrant eyeshadow, oftentimes you have to use non-eye safe pigments. They're being sued for that. Also being sued by the owner of Playa Hair Care, well, the founder. So when Forma Brands purchased Playa, she was told that they're going to plan to scale the brand. She was kind of fed this story that they would help grow her company. Allegedly, they have not done that, and she is now suing for $15 million in damages. So overall, Morphe's not doing great. In addition to being sued so many times last year, they already had a substantial amount of debt. They were already considering filing for bankruptcy, and now we've learned that they just closed all of their retail stores. And this happened in kind of a sneaky way. I remember first hearing about this in a few TikTok videos where Morphe employees were sharing on camera that they were finding out like the day their stores were closing, maybe the day before that, they were about to be out of a job. Some of the employees received severance, pretty minimal, but that's where Morphe is at now. They've closed all of their brick and mortar stores, but the brand's not necessarily going out of business. There is the opportunity for them to make a comeback. Whether or not they will is definitely debatable. I feel like it is definitely an uphill climb from here, but I would say a challenging part will be winning consumers back. I think because they've had so many controversies, a lot of people look at Morphe with a pretty bad taste in their mouth, especially after the way the store closings were kind of handled with these employees. Speaking of store closings, sort of, not really stores, but brands, and they're not necessarily closing. Okay, not a great segue, but let's talk about two brands that are leaving Sephora. And before we do, I want to note that I said in my 2023 makeup predictions video that this would be the year that we start seeing celebrity beauty brands closing. Now, these two brands I'm about to discuss, they're not necessarily closing, but allegedly they're leaving Sephora. And one of those brands is Item Beauty. This was one I was starting to suspect because all of the products were heavily discounted on Sephora. This was the brand created in collaboration with Addison Rae. Now, I talked about this in a brand incubator video. Honestly, it was like 2 years ago at this point, but I can leave it linked down below. I question how much involvement Addison had in this brand based on her rise to fame and the timeline of this brand starting. I view it more so as she's kind of like the spokesmodel for it. That's at least my observation. I could be incorrect there, but this was a more affordable line at Sephora. Not quite drugstore price tag, but definitely more affordable than most brands you'll see at that retailer. We'll also see Hyram's brand, Selfless by Hyram, leaving Sephora. Now, this was a skincare brand that was created partially with the Inkey List, and the Inkey List is another affordable brand sold at Sephora. Now, my guess, this is just my guess here, okay? For both of these brands, I don't necessarily think they were doing so horribly that Sephora was like, get these out of our stores. I can assume what happened was that they had a limited contract. It was set in place that they would be sold at that retailer for X number of months or years, and that contract has ended, and now they're leaving. Unfortunately, I wish I did. I'd love to share this info, but I don't have the access to any of these numbers. I could not tell you how well these brands are selling at these retailers. Though I will say, I haven't heard too much about either brand. That's just my own observation. I'm not sure if we will see either of these brands continue. With Item Beauty in particular, they were created with Ipsy Beauty, which we were probably familiar with as the subscription service. Ipsy Beauty, we've seen a lot of changes from them in the last few years as well, so I'm not sure what will happen with Addison Rae's brand. Again, I don't think this means either brand is closing.
This also happened after the video was filmed, so wanted to pop in here to tell you that Selfless just announced a new retail partner. They haven't shared who it's going to be, but they did say they're going to be somewhere, and my suspicion, the fact that they posted this particular photo with a red background is leading me to think Target just because of the red, but what retailer do you guys think?
I think a lot of people will be excited to hear that Colourpop is coming to Target. On January 29th, they're going to start hitting Target shelves and Target.com. Target has been getting every brand. I think part of this, maybe this introduction was kind of made with their partnership with Ulta Beauty because there are Ulta Beauty stores in certain Targets. And you know what? There aren't any Ulta Beauty Target partnerships in Manhattan. Most of the Targets here are like mini, they don't have everything. But I was in a Target in Queens the other day, and that was my first time ever seeing the Ulta pop-ups in stores. It was so cool. I was very impressed. So I feel like Target has really stepped up their beauty selection in general. They have so many brands, drugstore, all the way up to high-end now. So I think a lot of people will be very pumped to know that Colourpop is now going to be at Target. Also, something we heard rumored a bit last year that is now confirmed, and we've got a date. Glossier is coming into Sephora on January 17th, so like any day now. And I'll give you guys a little hint. Glossier is actually the next brand I'm doing a deep dive on, so I'm hoping to have that up next week. I'm still finishing some of the notes for that, but my plan is to get that filmed this week, have it up next week for you guys. I'm really excited about that video. Those are a few new things going on in the beauty space right now. I'm hoping to do these videos a bit more frequently in 2023. I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I will go ahead and see you in my next video. Bye.